The only downside to a gorgeous antique home with beautiful hardwood flooring and plaster walls is that everything you say echoes. Even with this nice wool rug, there is still an echo. So I apologize in advance. Hi friends, my name is Maya Grace and this is my sewing channel where I sew things and try to help you sew things too. And I am coming to you today from the floor of a friend of ours who is letting us stay in their house while we are in the process of moving. So this is not my sewing machine, this is not my house, and I'm about to make a skirt for someone, and we'll see how it goes. I'm kind of giving myself a one-day make challenge because it's just a simple 3/4 A-line skirt with a simple waistband and a little button on the side. So I feel like I can get all of the construction seams done in one day. The other little bit of a challenge that I'm giving myself is I'm doing the Victorian pocket method. I've seen this done quite a bit actually. It's where the pocket is a zipper alternative. So the side seam opens up so that you can get in and out of your skirt, but the top of the skirt is actually a pocket bag. And so like it comes undone and there's like a pocket in there. And I'm gonna see if I can make that work as well. So very exciting things are happening today. When my friend told me that she wanted like a brown wool skirt, I went to the Amish fabric store and I picked some of this up. Let me hold it nice and close so you can see just how lovely. It's about a medium weight. It's not very thick. It's got very fine threads though. And I think it's, I'm trying to remember the wool percentage. It was something close to 80. I know it was above 50, which is about all you can get as far as wool goes, unless you're willing to spend like $50 to $100 a yard. Before I get started on the cutting out of this skirt, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it over into the other room and I'm gonna iron all of the creases out really quick. As you can see here, I've folded my fabric into fourths, and basically what I'm going to do is this top corner here that is the most folded corner, I'm going to be cutting the waistband from that. So I take my friend's waist measurement and I find the circumference of a circle with that waist measurement, and I use that radius to cleanly mark from the corner all the way around. You can check your math by making sure that the line you've created is 1/4 of your measurement as well, but this is a really easy way to get a nice consistent line. I do the same thing with my hem. I take the length that I want the skirt to be, and then I mark with a pin every inch or so along the bottom hem. And I'm measuring from my top line about the same length that I would like my skirt to be. And then I just cut out along the lines I made, and that gave me my perfect circle skirt shape. In order to insert a side pocket, I needed a side seam, so along one edge I cut a straight line, and I made sure to do this on an edge where the grain was straight. Now, if you know anything about wool, you know that it is expensive. So I used all of my little pieces and I made sure to scrap together a beautiful waistband for the skirt. Piecing is period, piecing is valid, and I'm going to walk you through how I did it. So first off, I wanted to make sure that my pattern was lined up as good as possible. I also wanted to make sure that everything was cut on the same grain, so this was all cut on the warp, I believe? And I made sure to pin my seam lines and look at them really closely before sewing them up. And after a sew and a press with a hot iron, you couldn't really tell that there was a seam there. I mean, there's a little bit of attic bulk, and if you look very closely you can see it, but I think it looks pretty nice. Next, I had to construct the pocket. Like I said, this was an experiment for a pattern that I'm going to be releasing, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. So I needed a nice wide rectangle to make a pocket with, and I basically had to do some real finagling in order to construct it. What I'm doing here is taking that little extra corner bit and using it to make a square. I'm not really caring too much about how the pattern lines up as I do this because it doesn't really matter. And how I attached these is I basically did an applique stitch on both sides of the seam.
So you see how I've got some overlap there? On both raw edges, I did an applique stitch, and that created a really strong joining, I believe. And then all that was really left to do was sew up the side seam of the skirt only to the point where the pocket was going to be attached. This pocket is basically a replacement for a zipper, but I'm about to get into that in a minute.
So I have my little patched pocket that I've pieced out of all the leftovers, pinned into place about how it's gonna be sewn in. And so the skirt is the lining of it is going to open up like this to allow you to get in and out of the skirt, right? So there's no need for a zipper, and it's just like a Victorian facing where nothing will show because there's the lining of the skirt behind it, right? And I have a pin here. This part is going to be sandwiched in the waistband. So the waistband will hold the weight of this skirt. And this is like a fit a whole wine bottle in it pocket. So like it needs that strength. But the rest of it, except for just this little chunk right here, which will also be put in the waistband, but this free part of it here needs to be outside of the waistband so that it's free to open accordion style and go back in. That way you'll be able to, put your skirt on, and not have it, be obvious that there's a pocket here. I mean, you can put your hand in, but it's not obvious that there's a pocket here, and then still, boop, get in and out of it. So there's gonna be some finagling, and I'm still working out the process. This is kind of a mock-up for a pattern that I'm gonna be releasing, I wanna say in October, but I keep moving dates back and moving dates back and moving dates back. So I'm really happy with this pocket. I think it would be like a real game changer, and so far it's going well. So we'll knock on some antique Amish wood and hopefully things keep going good.
So in order to make sure that parts of my pocket were sandwiched into the waistband and parts of the pocket were free so that you could get in and out of the skirt, I cut a couple of little notches. One here so that that part would be completely held in, and one here so that I would have a lot of free edge. The way that it's folded in, I want my side where I cut the notch while it was folded to be completely held in for strength. And then the other side I want to be able to release so that it's easy to get in and out of the skirt. I made sure to zigzag all along this raw edge, by the way. Now it was time to sew my skirt to my pocket. So I have my pocket facing and my skirts right sides together, and I'm sewing it here, and I have a little notch cut so that my skirt will attach nicely. I got excited and accidentally finished my pocket off camera and pinned everything in place and got ready to insert the waistband. And you remember those little notches that we made so that the back of the skirt would be free and let you get in and out, and then we've got the other notches that need to be sandwiched into the waistband. Made sure to pin all of those so that they would get attached or not attached the way that they were supposed to. And I was sure to crease my waistband so that it would be easier to sew in neatly and I would know where my midpoint was. When constructing waistbands, I really like to do the first go about by machine for time's sake and because machine stitching very easily creates a strong, sturdy stitch. But then I like to do the finishing stitches entirely by hand. This allows for you to have some really nice, controlled, invisible stitching that I think really adds a nice finishing touch because these stitches will only be visible on the inside. Because I fold my waistband in and I tuck my raw edges under, and the only one that knows these stitches are here is me, really. At this point, all that was left was the hem and of course the buttonhole, but we're going to start with the hem. I put the skirt on Shelly and I brought the hem to her knee and then I pinned exactly where I wanted the skirt to hit. And then I trimmed the fabric to give myself enough space to do a nice solid hem and I ironed this under. I unfortunately did not have time to do a hand-sewn hem before leaving for Florida, so I did a really quick machine hem. The trick with a machine hem is to make sure that you stretch everything and press everything really, really well, especially with wool because it tends to bunch up a little bit. But after a nice steamy press, it should lay nice and flat like you see here. Next, I sewed on my button. I am no expert at buttons, but I do enough of them that I'm pretty confident in my technique, but I haven't double-checked it in a while. Basically, I just go through each hole, and then once I get through about 6 or 7 times with my double thread, I wrap it around the inside threads like this, and then move back to the back of my work and put in a nice little finishing knot. It's nice, it's quick, it's easy, and I've never really had one like snap or fall off on me. Now, buttonholes, in my opinion, should always be done by hand. This is mostly because machine-done buttonholes are a pain. They are so annoying. The little buttonhole foot is annoying to install. This part of your waistband is usually really thick, involving like sometimes 5 layers of fabric in places, and you don't know for sure whether the stitch is going to start at the bottom or the top, so you have to do a spare one first, and then you've basically done 2 buttonholes in the time that it would have taken you to probably do half of a hand-stitched buttonhole that would have looked nicer anyway. I just really don't like machine buttonholes. But at this point, my skirt was finished, and it was time to give it to Shelly 4 days before we leave the state. And I don't know about y'all, but I think she looks awesome in it.
Hello, I'm in yet another different house. For those of you that have been following our changing background journey and are at all interested, I actually started filming a little bit of a vlog. I don't know, I thought it would be fun. I'd give it a try. So that should be coming out after Cozy. Oh, by the way, Cozy is still happening. It's going to be a costume symposium put on by all of your favorite costubers, or at least a good chunk of them. Basically, we're just all coming together to put together an online conference that is completely free for all of you guys. It'll be really fun, so I hope you guys can check it out. I do not remember the date off the top of my head, but I will have it edited in. Thank you, editing Miah. If you enjoyed today's video, I would very much appreciate it if you would give it a like so that more awesome people like you can see it. I really appreciate just all of the engagement I get from you guys. Your comments are awesome, and I love just seeing what people think and responding and interacting. Like, it's a fun time. As I did mention, this pocket is going to be part of a sewing pattern that should be coming out sometime around October, so keep your eyeballs peeled for that. It's gonna be like a really, really adaptable pattern. It'll be available as like one bundle where you can get 3 different designs all in your size, or you can buy the whole size range for each look. Just because that way you don't have like 15 million files to sort through to figure out what you want. But I digress. If you feel so inclined and have the means to, my Ko-fi is in the description box below. I have a goal of reaching $400 in donations because that will help me break even for fabric and classes and software. Basically all the expenses that have gone into my pattern making so that I can keep my prices as low as possible and make sure that you guys get high quality, full size range patterns that work for your style. That's all I've got. Thank you so much, guys. What else did I want to talk about, Bebe? You're being very good. I was expecting you to interrupt me more, but you're being so good. Is it because you think I'm talking to you? Anyways, thank you so much for... She's rubbing her face and pouting because I stopped petting her.
Good girl. Good girl. You're so happy. Yeah. You're just a happy girl. Oh, goodbye.